In this video, I'll demonstrate installing the Dzuz spring into your doubler for your access door. I've got the doubler removed from the airfoil, and I've located the Dzuz fastener hole, that 1/4-inch hole, and I've opened it up now to one size larger, a 9/32 or a G drill. Either one would do, just so it gives a little clearance on that Dzuz stud. I've laid out locations for the access for the spring, measuring the dimension of the spring between the rivet holes and transferring that to my doubler with a line drawn straight through that Dzuz hole, and I've countersunk those two holes on the top side. So the doubler top side is identified because it still has that center line on it. You want to make sure you don't countersink or dimple the wrong side of the doubler. So make sure you mark the top side of the doubler. I'm going to call my assistant in here, and we're going to demonstrate how to use these tools to dimple the doubler. The doubler has to be dimpled. Go ahead, hold it. The doubler has to be dimpled because of the grommet on the bottom side of the access door. It leaves a little space and it wouldn't close tight. So here I've got block number 2 on the vise, and I got side D up in accordance with the instructions, and I've got myself tool number 2. Tool number 2 is a little ring around it like that. You can see that. My assistant's holding it nice and horizontal level there with the work surface, and I'm going to give it a little bang and a little bang again. It's a little solid. You don't have to hurt it much, just a couple of good raps like that, and it dimples it down. If you want to check it, you can grab your access door and see that the access door now fits onto the doubler, and there's no gap underneath between the access door and the doubler itself. It fits nice. The little grommet raised area fits into that little dimpled area. The next step now is to install the spring. So I'll install 2 rivets into those holes that I've pre-drilled and countersunk. I'll get my assistant to hold the doubler while I place some masking tape across the heads of those rivets. Those rivets are nice and flush. Rotate it upside down. Now the spring fits on nicely onto those rivets, like that. And now I place the washers onto these rivets by using my finger and licking my finger. As you have a magnetic finger, there the washers are onto the spring and on the correct location. Now we've got to rivet those little rivets. So I've got a squeeze riveter set up here, and I'm going to set it on top of the vise, and my assistant's going to bring the doubler over and make sure that as I bring this squeeze riveter together, it's going to push on the spring a little bit, but make sure that the doubler is held nice and flat to the lower rivet die as it's coming up. And so both of us are holding it here. I'm going to give it a little squeeze, and as I squeeze it, sometimes the spring will lift up on the far side and the washer will pop off just like it did there, which is a good demonstration for you. If it happens to you, that's no problem. Just pick up that washer, put it back on. I didn't squeeze it a whole lot. I just squeezed it a little bit, maybe even a little bit too much, and it's lifting the spring up. So the first time you give it a squeeze, don't squeeze it too much, just a little bit. Now we're going to have to hold it nice and flat again, and hopefully this time as I bring it down, everything kind of goes down in a spot, nice and flat, and squeeze it on down. Now this one here I can squeeze a little firmer, and then I'll go back to this side here. I'm just going to use the edge. You can see I'm just using the edge of the rivet die on that rivet and give it a final squeeze. Come back here, give this one a final squeeze. And there, I've installed the rivets into the doubler. For the access, the spring for the grommet is installed, and pull the masking tape off on this side. And my assistant was holding it nice and flat, so everything is nice and flush. If the rivets are sticking up a little bit, you can use the peening end of a ball peen hammer and put it on a bucking bar or something and just give it a light little tap just to make sure there's nothing that sticks up when you rub your finger across. And that's all there is to installing the spring on your doubler for your access door panel.